Okay, let's dive in. 50%. That's quite a number, isn't it?
It really is. Spotify's paid subscribers jumping by half since March 2020.
Yeah, I mean, that's massive. It really gets you thinking about, where audio is heading. My own listening, definitely way up.
Uh,
So it begs the question, what's the next big thing? How does our audio experience evolve from here?
and it feels like more than just a blip, right? More than a pandemic trend. It seems like a fundamental shift in how people consume content, maybe needing to multitask more or just less screen time.
Exactly. Which leads to this interesting thought experiment.
Hmm.
What if we had to design a new audio product, say for a giant like Meta?
Wow, okay.
I mean, think about their reach. All
Yeah.
those apps, devices.
Yeah.
It's a huge potential space. But where would you even start? How do you make something that works for, well, billions of users potentially?
Well, that immediately brings up a key question, doesn't it? What's the core problem we're trying to solve for the listener?
Right.
And knowing Meta, you'd probably lean towards something about connection, I imagine.
Precisely. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're putting on our listener headphones, I guess you could say,
Oh, yeah?
and really trying to understand what makes an audio product work. What do listeners need? What frustrates them?
Hmm.
And, what could actually capture their interest?
And the timing, as you said with that Spotify stat, it feels right. The audio space is booming.
It really is.
So Meta, with all its social connections already built in, they're in a pretty unique spot to maybe create these richer sort of shared audio experiences.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, there's a whole ecosystem, right?
Mm.
Creators, platforms like Spotify, Apple.
Sure.
But for this discussion, we decided let's really hone in on the listener. Because, I mean, if it doesn't work for them, nothing else really matters, does it?
That's the foundation. You have to start with the user need, the listener's desire. That's how you build something valuable, something people actually use regularly.
Okay, so who are these listeners we're trying to understand? Our sources sort of break it down two main ways. First, demographics,
Mm.
age specifically.
Hmm.
You've got your 12 to 34s, then 35 to 55, and 55 plus. But there seems to be a real focus on that younger group, the 12 to 34s.
Yeah, that makes sense strategically for Meta. They want to capture that younger audience, build habits early on, right? Get
Yeah.
them using their audio features as part of their regular digital life.
Right. The second angle is content type. What are they actually listening to?
Okay.
So music, obviously.
Hmm.
Spoken word, that's podcasts, audiobooks, and live radio.
Got it.
And this is where it gets interesting. The data is showing a really significant rise in podcast listening.
Uh-huh.
And even this trend, where spoken word overall is starting to edge out music in terms of total listening time for some people.
That is interesting. Maybe suggest people are looking for more focused content or like a deeper connection with stories or information.
Could be. So for our purposes today, let's narrow it down. We're focusing on individuals aged 12 to 34
Okay, the key demographic.
and they're active podcast listeners, like
Yeah.
at least 2 hours of audio every day.
Wow, okay. That's dedication.
It really is.
Yeah.
So what are the hurdles for these dedicated listeners? Let's start with discovery. How do they even find new stuff?
Ah, yes. Discovery. That's a huge friction point. There's just so much audio out there now.
Overwhelming, yeah.
And the sources suggest there's a real lack of effective recommendations, like truly personalized, proactive suggestions.
Right. It feels very manual still. You scroll charts, you ask friends, but it's not like, say, video recommendations that just know you. Finding the next great podcast can feel like work.
Exactly. And that effort, that work, as you put it, can lead to people just sticking with what they know or maybe missing out on things they'd actually love.
Okay, so discovery is tough. What about once they do find something and press play? The actual listening part, the consumption phase, as the source calls it.
Yeah, and a key theme here is, well, isolation. And maybe boredom, frankly, especially during longer podcasts or audiobooks.
I can relate to that. Audio is great, it's a companion, but it can be solitary. And if it's long, your mind wanders.
Totally. It's easy to lose focus, start multitasking, maybe not in a good way, just sort of drift off. You reach for your phone.
Yeah, I've definitely done that. You're trying to follow along, but suddenly you're scrolling social media and the audio is just background noise.
And then the value is lost, right? The creator's intent, the story's impact, it gets diluted if you're not really engaged.
Okay, so listening can be isolating or boring. What about afterwards? The post-consumption phase. People want to talk about what they heard, right? Share it.
Absolutely. There's a strong desire to connect over the content, but sharing audio effectively, it's tricky.
Yeah, you can send a link to the whole episode, sure.
Yeah.
But the sources highlight this desire to share specific bits, like a powerful quote or a really funny moment.
Exactly, that aha moment or the
They'll
laugh
start
out loud
ganging.
line. You want to send that specific thing to your friend right now.
But how do you do that easily? Tell them to scrub to like 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 32 seconds. It's clunky.
Super clunky. Not seamless at all. People want to share the spark, like you said earlier, not the whole bonfire.
Okay, so we've got discovery challenges, potential boredom and isolation during listening, and difficulty sharing the good parts. Lots to chew on.
Definitely. So the next step is prioritization. If you're meta, which of these pain points do you tackle first?
Well, the argument in our source material leans heavily towards tackling the boring listening experience and the inability to share.
And that makes sense strategically for meta.
Right. It lines up perfectly with their whole mission around connection and shared experiences.
It's a natural fit. Addressing those issues directly plays to their strengths as a social platform.
Okay, so let's talk solutions. How could we actually fix these things? First idea, communal listening.
Ooh, okay. Tell me more.
It's kind of like Meta's Watch Together feature in Messenger, but for audio.
Ah, I see. So you could jump on a call with friends and listen to the same podcast episode, maybe, at the same time.
Exactly. Imagine your friend recommends something, and instead of just sending a link, you both hop on a call and listen together.
And you could react in real time, pause it, discuss things.
Yeah. It transforms listening from this potentially solo activity into something shared, something social, like an instant audiobook club.
I like that. It directly tackles the isolation point,
I-
leverages their existing social features. That feels like it could have an immediate impact.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, next idea. Interactive audio.
Okay, interactive. How so?
Think beyond just passive listening. What if audio had elements you could interact with? Like a choose-your-own-adventure style story.
Whoa, okay. So the narrative could actually change based on listener choices.
Potentially, yeah. That directly fights the boredom factor, right? You're not just listening, you're participating.
That would definitely keep you engaged.
And it doesn't have to be super complex, necessarily. Even just incorporating, say, periodic questions within an audiobook or podcast.
How do you mean?
Like maybe after a chapter, a little prompt asks you to reflect on something, or guess what happens next. Just something to pull you back in, make you process it actively.
That's clever. A lighter touch of interactivity, but still effective in boosting engagement without totally changing the original content. Encourages active recall.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, third idea. Immersive audio. This one feels a bit more future forward.
Immersive, like VR.
Exactly. Using something like Oculus headsets to create a really deep listening experience.
Okay, so how would that work?
Imagine listening to a history podcast and actually feeling like you're in that environment. Or listening to a fantasy audiobook and seeing parts of that world visualized around you.
Wow. Okay, that's taking it to a whole other level, transporting the listener, basically.
Yeah, creating really memorable, deeply engaging experiences that standard audio just can't replicate.
Huge potential there. Definitely tackles engagement.
Sounds amazing, right? But then you think, okay, what do you build first? What's the minimum viable product, the MVP?
Right, the starting point,
And the source material really points towards that communal listening feature.
which makes sense.
Yeah, because similar shared viewing models have already proven successful, like Watch Together. It feels achievable, high impact, and perfectly aligned with Meta's core strengths.
Agreed. A good MVP needs to solve a real pain point, be feasible to build, and likely to be adopted. Communal listening checks those boxes, I think.
Yeah. And for anyone unfamiliar, an MVP is just that basic first version, enough to get it out there, get feedback, and build from there.
Precisely.
So wrapping this all up, the big takeaway from this deep dive seems to be that the future of audio, especially for a platform like Meta, isn't just about more content. It's about changing the experience of listening.
Yes, moving beyond passive consumption.
Exactly. By tackling that feeling of isolation, making it easier to share, making it more engaging through things like communal or interactive features, that's where the real opportunity lies.
It's about acknowledging that listening doesn't have to be solitary. Fostering connection, deepening engagement, that unlocks new value and could really reshape how we all experience sound.
Well said. And that leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about these potential shifts, communal listening, interactive stories, immersive soundscapes, what other ways, maybe unexpected ways, could technology change how we connect with each other through sound? How might it change the stories we hear and how we hear them?
Definitely something to ponder. What else could be just around the corner in the world of audio?